Hello and welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. I believe I've told the story about the teacher, not one of my teachers, but an office mate to one of my teachers, whom I did the injustice of reorganizing their bookshelves while I was waiting for my teacher to show up for an appointment. I never talked about the other injustice I did that teacher, a far worse one, I think, which was to steal this book from her shelves. I believe it was a woman teacher, but I'm not 100% sure. I was young and didn't feel myself bound by many rules and stuff. I repented of such deeds a long time ago, I think, but I have kept my foul deserts from the theft in my possession over all these years, and I don't know that any means of making amends is left to me. The teacher who was the rightful owner of this book is most likely no longer alive, and I would apologize if I could. I have no idea what sort of harm this theft may have wrought. Needless to say, this book, one story in this book particularly, I guess, has stayed with me over all these years, and I thought that I would read it to you. After having read I and Thou, which a friend recommended to me, I went on a little bit of a Martin Buber kick for a while, and I accumulated a lot of books, but this was the first one, which, as I say, I obtained by illicit means. The rest I paid for fairly and squarely at used bookshops as I came across them, and I read them all. But years later, I did a book purge, and I came to the realization that I really didn't like Buber's writing that much. I like Buber as a figure, and I do like some of his ideas. But all in all, I had the books and they were not giving me joy. So in the Marie Kondo way, I got rid of them in the book purge. And I've since reacquired a couple of them. I had also a very nice 3-volume biography of the man, which I never read and would never read. But even to this day, I regret that I gave it up. I just got rid of it, of course. It would be something I would be more inclined to look at now, but I'm not a biography reader. But this story, this particular story, has really stuck with me. And the book is replete with stories which are almost akin to the Sufi stories by Idris Shah, compiled by Idris Shah, which made such an impression on me when I was young, around the same time. So this is very short, but this book has a lot of such stories, and they're more or less good stories. But this one, as I say, beyond all the others, I wouldn't need the book to remember this story. Rabbi Hanoch told this story. There was once a man who was very stupid. When he got up in the morning, it was so hard for him to find his clothes that at night he almost hesitated to go to bed for thinking of the trouble he would have on waking. One evening he finally made a great effort. took paper and pencil, and as he undressed, noted down exactly where he put everything he had on. The next morning, very well pleased with himself, he took the slip of paper in his hand and read, "Cap." There it was. He set it on his head. Pants, there they lay. He got into them. And so it went until he was fully dressed. That's all very well, but now where am I myself? He asked in great consternation. Where in the world am I? He looked and looked, but it was a vain search. He could not find himself. And that is how it is with us, said the rabbi. I have found in my life often enough that that is indeed how it is with me. And I suddenly realized that the most recent example of that was in my failed attempt to read the book Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. There was a group of people, booktubers and others, reading it en masse, and I dearly wanted to be a part of that. And when I began the book, and I got several hundred pages into it, I just found that it was not giving me any pleasure. And finally, I decided to DNF it or set it aside. Do not finish is what the DNF stands for in booktube lingo. And I realized that I had lost track of myself. So now I am reading a book by Ned Blackstone. I can't remember the title. It's the Unvisioning of American History. That's not the title. I'm just telling you my version of it. And I am taking delight from the book, but also learning things that are important to me about my own country and its history, even about such powerful figures of the imagination as George Washington, about whom I knew nothing at all, beyond the anecdote of the cherry tree, which is fanciful. And through Ned Blackstone's book, I know the man much better than I ever did. I think I also knew some bits about Washington as a slaveholder, but I didn't know much else about him. I knew nothing of him as a military man, as a land speculator, and so forth. And so really, for the first time, I have a sense of this man who has been proclaimed as the father of my country. And I realized that, like the figure in the Martin Buber anecdote, by focusing on this novel of Victor Hugo, I was removing myself from myself and my interests, particularly when I realized that the book was not serving me. So it's just an interesting tidbit and an excuse to read a story, and I am trying to get back on my stable footing as far as a daily reading practice. I sort of let things fall apart in the month of April. Now it is May, and I'm just getting back on my feet and reading. So I'm trying to finish up a book which I started about ancient Iraq. I've been, well, I don't see it here, trying to read a little bit about the saga of the Volsungs, I think is the name. And I've also just resumed reading The History of the United States by Henry Adams. I was and am in the midst of the second term of President Jefferson, and I am finding that everything in the Ned Blackhawk, I've gotten up to the ratification of the Constitution and the swearing in of George Washington as president, that everything in the Ned Blackhawk is making a wonderful prelude to the Henry Adams. And it is my hope, I expect that it will take me the rest of this year to finish Henry Adams's history. My hope would be next year to read Francis Parkman. The Library of America has 2 volumes of his history, which recounts the French and English strivings in North America. And I would like to learn that history. I expect it's a very good history and very well written, but it is also the kind of thing that it is best to have some prelude before entering into it. Blackhawk mentions Parkman a little bit and says that he considered Native Americans to be stupid, and honestly, the bias is also something that I need to learn more about. And I believe that Parkman's history will be very good. Now, at the chapter that I just left off with in Blackhawk, there was also the Pontiac War. I know none of this history and have never known any of this history at all. But having read that, it prompted me to order. I found a cheap copy from Better World Books, a copy of Parkman's history of that particular conflict. It's paired with the Oregon Trail. I have the Oregon Trail in a Penguin, but so I've decided that next year, if I actually do read his history of the French and English in North America, that I will also try to squeeze in his history of the conflict with Pontiac. So I don't know for sure. That's what I will be doing, but I am trying to remember myself and remember what I am reading for. I did a tag video recently in which I said, I'm trying to figure out what the heck is going on around here. And that's not a joke, and it's not an exaggeration. And ultimately, Victor Hugo did not contribute to that quest. So we'll see. I'm a person who is always at risk of just abandoning reading altogether. It's happened before due to illness arising and due to life just becoming too hectic. So I don't plot this out as a given. The best laid schemes of mice and men gang after glay, as we know. So I wanted to share this story from Buber, and I will chat more in the future. Thank you for stopping by my channel.